Welcome, 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 welcome to the Community Belonging Project. Of course, it's 40 years of WestCan. For those of you who have never heard of the WestCan Folk Performing Company of Montreal, they're based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And for 40 years this year, they have been, of course, delivering the very best in Afro Caribbean dancing and drumming. In more modern recent times, they've been delving into teaching not only the children of our community, but sharing with the larger community at hand. So that is teaching drumming, teaching storytelling, and of course, teaching Afro Caribbean dance. My name is Pat Dillon Moore, and tonight I am your host for a very, very interesting project. Now, the Community Belonging Project was how can we take Afro Caribbean culture as it is practiced here by so few people here in Quebec and further it? Get our older people, now that they have done their work and are relaxed, to come back to storytelling, to come back to Afro Caribbean culture. And of course, it's to foster a greater sense of self awareness, and along the way, we invite other communities to join us in this process. So, I do want to thank the Secrétariat aux relations avec les Québécois d'expression anglaise. And that for those of you in the Caribbean and English-speaking nations, they're a secretariat of relationships between Quebecois and those who express themselves in English. So, today, I also want to acknowledge this project is being done with BLAACQ, which is Bridging Language and Culture in Quebec, with our partners, BCRC. Without any further ado, the art of storytelling. Tonight, we are very, very honored via modern technology to have Dr. N2 Pearl Springer, who is an award-winning actress. Dr. Springer is one of the most prolific playwrights in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. Her plays have all been mounted internationally to a lot of critical acclaim. Her focus is heritage of her birthplace, which is Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, from her work, you will get authentic facts and information as it pertains to the indigenous peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Dr. Springer, N2, to Montreal. Unmute. Welcome, Dr. Springer.
It's good to be here.
So I first want to start off with, when did you know that you were a storyteller and that you wanted to devote so much of your life to storytelling?
Well, I don't know that you decide that you want to be a storyteller. Storytelling is part of the life and has been part of the life of the African Caribbean person, especially the women. In my family, my mother, my grandfather, my uncles and aunts were all storytellers. And storytelling was the way you passed on information. Storytelling was the way you passed on values. Storytelling was the way to imprint things on your consciousness. I mean, I remember one of the most important stories. We were very materially poor, and my mother had to take a job in the night to make sweets for me to pay for private lessons for me. And instead of saying, don't open the door for strangers, don't this, don't that. She told us a story about a mother with 3 children who had to go out to work, and she taught the children a song. And she told the children, don't open the door until I sing the song. And the child who was disobedient was stolen away by the evil presence that came in from the forest and pretended to sing like the mother. So there were so many lessons inside of that. 1, obedience. 2, being beware of strangers. 3, being very cautious, even of people you know, because they could pretend to be one thing and then be something else. All those lessons in that little story. And I remember when I went to England years later to do my master's, there was a lot of concern in England about how to prepare children to deal with negative advances. And I went to one of the meetings and I told that story. And the principal and the teachers were amazed. And I said, this is the power of storytelling. You know, so storytelling has always been part of my life. Storytelling was how you passed on values. You told stories in the night on the back step. There were rituals around storytelling. You planted corn, you picked the corn, and you roasted the corn outside, and your mother or your father or your uncle would have the corn in the hand and say, ship sail, sail fast, how many men are there on board? And you have to guess the number of corn grains in the hand. And according to how you guessed, so many stories you were told. Of course, there was no television and all of that. And a lot of the time, stories were told by the moonlight, and it's very romantic and very beautiful. So that I just told stories and I passed on values and so on through the stories. And then when I began to write, I began to create stories based on the traditional forms to deal with new and current situations that we may meet, you know. So
Ever since
I
you knew yourself, you were telling stories. The thing I wanted to ask you, and I had, I'm born here of Jamaican heritage, and there was a 9 year period because I got vexed at the passing of a beloved cousin that I did not go to Jamaica. And when I went back, that romanticism around stories had changed in my family because in that time electricity had come, VCRs were there, they were watching Santa Barbara and those Nollywood plays. So in the evening, you know, I would go for sure for a prescribed time to the family in country. And I'm all looking forward as a big adult to go back to that romantic time. And here was everybody inside with a light over their head watching Santa Barbara. Well, I was vexed. So, my question to you is, does this harm the little electronic games? Does it impede your work? And do you find the generation, particularly Caribbean youth, stopping some of this to take time and hear oral storytelling, or even if it's printed? What is your experience around that? I'm interested in hearing your perspective.
well, just last week I was telling my grandchildren, one who is 22 and one who is 20, a story when we were in my kitchen and something happened. And I was telling them a story and they were listening. But I think that the challenge of our age is to imbue into our children, our young children, the fact that the technology has to be bent to tell their story. And we have to claim the technology in a particular way. Okay, for instance, in my own situation, I follow the Ifa Orisha tradition, and in that, the God of creativity and the God of technology is Ogun. And through Ogun, you can claim the technology. And also in the Akan situation, we have Anansi, who is the Akan God of wisdom. But also, he weaves and he weaves the web, and that web becomes the World Wide Web. You know? So that's what I do. I create stories rooted in the tradition and relate them to the now. And I find that, for instance, if you go on my Facebook page, you will find I have created a lot of stories and there's a big following. So we have to create ways in which to force the technology and claim it for our children. Let them know that inside their history, inside their cosmologies, inside their worldviews, there is the opportunity to claim technology. That technology is not an alien thing that was imposed on them. That we have created technology. And the whole thing is about claiming, about seeing yourself as the center of existence and using everything to tell your stories. And we have not done that with the children. We have teachers. Every child has a phone. I mean, we can do simple things like tell the children, give them a project, go and interview the elders in your district and let them tell you their stories. What are their stories? Or go and take a picture of this old house and find this story. Or what is your favorite? Simple things that will let the children look at the technology as a way in which they can find themselves. Because especially for the African child, we are divorced from our reality. We don't know our history. The history is not taught in schools. We have no idea of what we have contributed to the society. We have no idea that we have a worldview and a perspective, that there are other creation myths other than the Christian one of Adam and Eve. We have no idea of what we have contributed as a people. And so that everything is so Eurocentric in the education system and in our homes. We are not doing our work. In my house, behind my house, there was this huge empty lot that the people did not maintain and was always full of bush and very mysterious. So there's this myth. I mean, we sit down and watch out all these vampire stories and all of that, and we have no problem with looking at it. And we absorb the myth of the Greek and Roman mythology as the foundation of Western civilization. And we are ignorant of the fact that Greece and Rome went to Egypt to learn, and that Egypt, the foundation of Egypt, spread down to Nigeria and Zimbabwe and those other places. We don't know those links. And we have created mythological characters. The whole of Greco-Roman civilization is based on mythological characters, some good, some evil. The days of the months of the year, all of that is based on somebody else's mythology, while ours is regarded as superstition. So there's this character called Asukuya that comes out of Yoruba mythology. And I located her in the empty lot behind the house. And this Sukuya is a dread creature because she liked to suck the blood of children who are naughty. And the only person that the Sukuya is afraid of, the Sukuya is afraid of mothers and grandmothers. So you dare not go to bed with your mother or your grandmother vexed with you. Because if that Sukuya decide to crawl up that wall out of the bush and jump up on that wall and peep in and see children who sleeping who have been naughty, and the children vexed with their grandmother, and the grandmother sense not alert to go and deal with that Sukuya, what will become of these children? So my children and grandchildren, even as adults, really question the fact of whether there's a Sukuya or not. So you don't beat the children or buff them up or, well, I don't know now. I don't know if Madame Sukuya would like what is happening here, so we need our
As I
story.
reach home, I have one of my grandchildren, Mr. Kumani. I am going to start with him and I'm going to put that, I'm throwing away the little books online about parenting. I'm going straight for the Sukayan. Before you tell us one of your stories, what goes into a good story or even a great story?
Okay, theater is my life. That's what I do. But I always say that I learned theater from my mother, my grandfather, my uncles, who never learned theater, if that makes any sense. I mean, I was fortunate enough to learn theater from people like Derek Walcott and Slade Hopkinson. I mean, you all have Lalo Hopkinson, who is Slade's daughter, who's one of your great literary figures in Canada. Her father, Slade, is one of my mentors, and of course, Derek, the poet laureate, the Nobel, and all of that. But my mother and my uncles, and they never went to theater school. But when you see they're telling a story, so they're telling the story of Elijah Bless. And Elijah Bless is a female devil. And she likes to be outside of, well, in those days, church halls and parties and so. And she's very beautiful, but you could only see a shadow of her face. She has a big hat, which interestingly enough in these times, masks her face. She has a long white dress, but she doesn't walk very well. Her foot is a cloven foot, and it turned backwards. And you are hearing this story. And at the end of the story, you know that as a young boy or not a young girl, you're not going up anywhere and pick up no stranger to go to bed with them, because you don't know what hide under that cloven hoof. And you have the voices. Mommy could mimic the voice of the Elijah Bless and that fiendish laugh as you fall over the precipice, and that fiendish laugh follows you. And she knew how to get the levels of the voice and how to stand up and how to, storytelling is based, one, as all good theater, on having clear themes, on having voice control, of being able to do different voices, of having the power of the word. I mean, I think about my mother who never went past primary school, and the wisdom, the power of the word. Like she would say things like I still use in plays. You're setting up yourself to get upset. Think about that. You're setting up yourself to get upset. Or you can't chew and eat sugar cane same time, child. You know, if you know what sugar cane is, it's tough. And if you try to chew it and you know, and choose, you will be spitting, right? Or, you know, not everything you swallow good to vomit. Talk some and keep some. So, what is the point? First, every story must have a moral. What do you want to teach the child? What do you want to say? What lessons do you want to pass on that will be life lessons? I hear my mother's voice every day in my head. You know, some story, some saying, and the sayings are important parts of the stories. You know, talk some and keep some. And well, storytelling does so much. It gives the history of a place. It gives moral. It explains psychic and spiritual phenomena. It gives information and insights. It guides. But you must know why you're telling the story. What is his motive? What do you want to leave with the person? And if you can't tell a story that will leave something, then don't bother.
Thank you so much for that very passionate definition of storytelling. And I believe World Wide Web, we're about to get a very special treat. You know, they cussed the pandemic, but really and truly, the pandemic has had a lot of good things because look here now, how we sit down, box and relax, right? Otherwise, people running all over to grocery store, they're running here, there, there. We have curfew now. Everybody in their house, and they're going to listen to Auntie N2. Auntie N2, bring a story. Come, give me, please.
Well, you see me, I always have my clothes, my storytelling clothes. And all my stories and them wrap up in this cloth. So I just have to try to get the story out of the cloth by doing this ritual. And all you have to join me. Close all your eye, tight, tight, tight. Close all your eye. You too, Madam Olsen, or see your eye open still. Close your eye. And when I say crick, you say crack. And when I say monkey breaky, you say back. And when I say for piece of pama, you say rock. Pamarak is a wonderful food that we have in the Caribbean. So let me hear all you. Crack,
Crack,
crack. Monkey breaky,
back,
back. For piece of pama,
rock,
rock. Okay, let's try that again. Crack,
crack,
monkey breaky,
back,
back. For piece of pama,
rock.
rock. Well, storytelling is a magic thing. So you have to say the magic words. And because I just carry mine in a cloth, I have to see if this cloth feel good enough for one of the stories to jump on. And since it's carnival time, I'm begging the magic cloth to give me a carnival story. Once upon a time in Trinidad, in the Caribbean, they had a carnival. And the carnival, everybody know, was the greatest show on earth. The best carnival in the whole wide world was in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, how that carnival come about? Over a long, long, long time, from 1606 to 1807, a lot of African people were dragged from their homes, captured, and brought to the Caribbean, even to America. But although these people were captured and enslaved, they brought with them their culture, their heritage. And one of the great examples of their culture was their masking traditions. They had different masking rituals. And when they were brought to the Caribbean, they practiced these masking rituals, which eventually became the staple of the carnival we knew. So the carnival was part of the resistance. And after these people fight and fight and fight to get permission to carry on the mass, in 1881, they had a big riot and the government let them keep the mass. Well, now that is only to tell only a little thing about the carnival, because right now from that Trinidad carnival, it have about 130 carnival all over the world. In Caribana, in Notting Hill, in Leeds, on the Parkway, all over the place it have carnival that come out of the Trinidad carnival. Well, after I tell all that, I have to tell only about two little children living in Trinidad. One named Kyrell, a little boy about 14, and one named Keisha, a little girl about 9. They live in a place near Port of Spain. In Port of Spain, they call Laventille. Now, Laventille was the place that the carnival come out. That the steel band that they invented in Trinidad come out. And although Trinidad is a place with plenty festivals, the children like carnival the best. They love the pan. They like to go in the pan yards and walk and listen to the pan. The names of the big pan side: All Stars, Desperados, Renegades. And they like to see people in the costume carnival time. Well, this carnival, Tyrell and his sister get up. Carnival Tuesday morning. Oh, you, before God make morning, they don't get up. Well, Tyrell is 14, so he feels he's a big man. He feels he could go and watch mass by himself. So only the father get up. He telling Keisha, you ask him now. You ask him. Keisha say, you always getting me in trouble. You ask him if you want. The father say, what it is going on there? Keisha say, Daddy, you will carry us to see mass, please? The father say, well, I have to go to work. And when I come back from work, if all you behave on yourself, I will carry all you. Daddy, Mommy could carry us, please? All your mother gone in the hospital to see all your grandmother. She gone to comb her hair and change her clothes and see about her. All you know, you have to respect the elders. So that's what your mother gone and do. And after that, she have to go to work too. So, all you cook food, to have a nice tailor out there for all you, and make sweet bread. All you stop home. Stop home, all the numbers there. All the serious numbers that all you could need. All you have all your phone, it have the TV there, watch the mass, and everything. But anybody strangers come, don't open the door. Don't open the door, and most of all, don't leave the house. Oh, they hear me? Yes, Daddy. Well, all right. Daddy bless the children, he help them up, and he leave and he go to work. Well, the children, they watch TV, they watch through the window, people passing and say, morning Keisha, morning Tyrell, or they enjoy the carnival, or they father not there, or they behave on themselves. After a while, Tyrell started to get restless. Keisha, come let me go down the road now. Keisha said, Tyrell, you always getting me in trouble, you know. I'm not going anywhere. You hear what Daddy said? All right. Some time passed. Tyrell gone back. Keisha, we won't stay long. Oh gosh, and nobody ain't gonna know. Nobody ain't gonna know. Miss Mavis next door always watching what we doing, you know. Of course, we only stay a little while. Tyrell, you say, I want you to say, cross your heart and hope to die, that we wouldn't stay long, and when I'm ready to come back, you come back home. Cross my heart and hope to die, Keisha. And he went and put on the nice jeans and the fancy shades. And Keisha went and put some of her mother lipstick and perfume, which is smelling like a rose. And they go through the back door so Miss Mavis wouldn't see them. Only they reach out. They meet up a whole band with what the mask that they call Dame Lorraine. Woman with grow tete and grow bonda, and they're singing. Bam, bada badam, bada badam, bam, bada 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 badam, bam, bada badam, bada badam, bam, bada 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 badam, bam, badam badam, tidam tidam, bam, badam 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 bam. Keisha watching the people. One of the ladies come to hold Keisha. She said, no, my mother tell me don't let nobody touch me. And she moved away. But where Tyrell had the little scam had the two palm stick in the back pocket, and he find a small steel bar and he played. Well, Keisha there, she watching the masks, she seeing all the different masks, she seeing rubber, she seeing baby doll, she seeing Perro, all the old time masks, she seeing pretty masks. All of a sudden, Keisha hear a sound that she afraid. Poor Keisha, she started to scream and run, and scream and run, and scream and run, but more she scream and they run. The jab follow her, they follow her until they take the little girl and carry she away. Well, Tony, evening come. Tyrell go back home. He meet his father and mother stand up in front of the door. Daddy, I didn't mean. Father cut him off one time. Where your sister? My sister, she ain't come home. Where your sister, little boy? Go down the road by Mr. Mastiffy. and tell him I say to come quick. Now, Mr. Mastiff was a big stick fighter. One of them would just practice the martial arts that they bring from Africa. And Mr. Mastiff had just set up a Gael. And the Gael was where they do the warriorhood manhood training. And they sent for Mr. Mastiff. And Mr. Mastiff come with a set of young warriors from the area. And they go and they singing a chant. They singing, Brahman in the road, Brahman in the road in the morning, Brahman in the road in the morning, Brahman in the road. And they sing and they sing. And they go up a big hill where they know the devil masters be. And they spread out round the old shack and they peep in. And they see Keisha tie up in a corner. And all the bad devil and them lie down, tired. And the Brahmin break down the door. With a boy in their hand, they give a cocktail on them wicked people and take Keisha and carry she back home. Well, Tony, if you know the mother and father happy, the mother they done cook a whole pot of pilau and make sweet bread and pone and some sorrel. And she feed everybody. And while everybody happy, the father called Keisha and Tyrell in the back. And he tell Tyrell, so little boy, what you learn from this that happened here today? He said, Daddy, I'm real sorry. I wouldn't do anything like that again. I promise, Daddy, I will listen. He said, you is a young boy. You're 14 years old. You have sister. You have mother. Eh? Don't you think you should start to take care of your mother and your sister and be responsible, be a responsible young man? Yes, Daddy. Apologize to your sister and apologize to your mother. But Keisha loved she brother like how Hog loved mud. And she hugged him up and said, Daddy, I forgive him. Tyrell, you wouldn't do that again, eh? You wouldn't do that again. And the three of them go back and they sing and they dance and they had a good time. And the stick man, Mr. Mastiff and the men beat drum and they celebrate and they dance and then they went home with the belly full. And Tony, you know, next morning, Ash Wednesday morning, only Tyrell wake up, he gone by his father. He says, so Daddy, next carnival, they letting me go and play mass by myself. The father said, look little boy, don't provoke me this early morning. Crack!
Crack.
Monkey breaky,
Back.
for a piece of pama,
Rack.
story, end, and the wire bend.
And I'm listening and I'm thinking about how all of us over the 30 years, close to 30 years of going to carnival, and if you're not careful, something could happen to you. And that story for me just brought back the many, many, many times when you had to be careful or someone had to bail you out. Don't care as big as me is, much less poor little Keisha and poor little Tyrell. Before you go, because our time with you is short and we will have to have you come again, you were telling me about Belmont and what coming from Belmont meant to you. How do you feel that particular region informed what it is you do now?
Okay, I am not originally from Belmont. I'm here in my daughter Attila's office. I am originally from Santa Cruz, which is a village and the north of the island
Mhm.
uh, that was peopled by indigenous people and Africans. So that is my heritage, indigenous and African. And I also have Garifuna blood because my grandfather came from St. Vincent, which that's another story. The whole fight that people in St. Vincent um, waged, and some of them who were exiled to Belize and formed the Garifuna people. So many stories, so many stories, so many stories. But Belmont is part of East Dry River. It has a great, 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 great history. It is the first place where Africans, freed Africans, settled. Um, After 1807, the end in the trade in our ancestors, and after emancipation in 1838, there was peaceful rioting for a week in Port of Spain, and many Africans refused to go back to the plantations. They say, pas de Sisam, pas de Sisam. They spoke Creole at the time, and which means, as you from Quebec will understand, no more 6 years.
Mhm.
Father Caesar, Father Caesar. And they refused to go back to the plantations, and they settled in the area around Port of Spain, so that Belmont was originally called Freetown. And in that East Dry River area, um, there were shrines of African spirituality in which the pan was cocooned and preserved. There a heavy influence of Yoruba cosmology, because about 6,000 Yoruba people were brought, so that the mass.
Mm. Hello? Hoping that you can hear me. Hello? I think perhaps their Wi Fi died or their laptop wasn't plugged in. We're going to try to reconnect. In the meanwhile, I'm going to ask my assistants to please give me the Facebook page for Dr. N2 Pearl Springer. If you give me the correct spelling. Did you enjoy that? Wave your hands because I could see you. Wave your hands. I can't hear you. Shake up your hands. Let me see you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wasn't she fabulous? Wow. And how many of you have been to a carnival, maybe Trinidad and Tobago carnival? Let me see your hands. I see some hands waving there. Did you feel like Terrell and Keisha? When somebody could take you away, because the devil was a metaphor for all sorts of things, you know. Okay. Shake your hands if you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So on Facebook, it's the Ida Keda group. IDA Keda group. You should see something scrolling at the bottom. In the chat room, right? For those of you new to this whole feature, there's a little thing where you could write it. If you don't know it, find one of your grandchildren or the neighbor child, show you where the chat room is. And IDA group is where you could find her Facebook page. And I want to thank Auntie N2. I think I've been brought into the family now. Dr. N2 Pearl Springer, for being with us today. It was marvelous, and for sure, she will come back again. Now, here's what I want to tell you. And I don't know if they have an example of the books. Why we're doing this is we want to encourage all of you, from the smallest of children to the biggest hardback of men. And all of you big, big, big woman or woman, to start writing your stories, your personal stories, or stories that you remember, stories that have you remember time and time again. And start telling them, write your life. It doesn't have to be once upon a time I was born here and you did all of that kind of stuff. Because how are they going to know here in this part of the world, Quebec, that we from the Black community helped to build this place unless you write your stories? Our voices are missing. And as part of this project, those of you who sign up, and it's West Can Folk, WESTCANFOLK at gmail.com. Now remember, we don't have a million of them hanging around. First come, first serve. These are the little books that you too could write your stories in. We want to start you off, and anywhere you get a book, the dollar store, sometimes people give you them little travel book and whatever. It could even be the back of a phone book. We want you to write your stories. And that's the whole raison d'etre of this project. It's a community of belonging. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the assistants of Chantel and Shiata Lewis. I want to thank Sam over at BCRC. And I would like to thank you. Now here's what you're going to do, and you've heard, those of you who have seen me before. I want you to tell your friends, and they will tell their friends about the lovely time you had here. And they will tell their friends, and so on and so on. Remember, look for West Can on Facebook, West Can Folk on YouTube. Look for us also on Instagram. We have lots of videos and activities, a whole calendar of ideas and events. Share them on your page. And that's what I mean. You tell your friends, and so on and so on. Oh, you're back, Auntie N2. There you are. 1 minute, you have to unmute.
Yes, this technology that goes at amazing times. So I have to write a story about that.
But in your absence, I really pushed people to write us for their books, to start writing their stories. Before you go, because I know you're pressed for time because you have another event, why is it important today that particularly people living in their homes in a place that is full up of snow right now, why is it important for them to write their stories?
I think that every human being needs to center the world around him or herself. You have to be whole in yourself before you can reach out and embrace. We have too many of our people walking around who don't feel good about themselves, who bleach their skins, who have these long, ridiculous horsehair hanging down, who live, who are not comfortable with who they are. And the only way that you can be comfortable with who you are is to know your story, to tell your story. But one of the problems is that we do not know our stories, especially those who live outside of the Caribbean. We do not know their story. I spent a year in England doing my master's, traveling all over England, telling stories. And I mean, I remember one little boy that I carry with me all the time after all these years. I told a story about talking about the people who were scattered and that we don't know who they were because the enslavers did not discriminate who was a king, who was a chief, but that we knew We have to carry the greatness of our history inside of us. And in the break, this little boy, he was the one black child in the class, grabbed my hand and said, if I am so great, why do they treat me like that? Why do they treat me like that? And I carry that child with me after all these years, and I wonder what became of him if he was able to continue to find the greatness. Because the hard thing about storytelling is that as a storyteller, you go into schools, you go into communities, but there is no continuity. Our education system does not recognize the African. Our education system does not give us recognition and visibility. And I think that the lack of sense of self, the lack of recognition and visibility is responsible for a lot of the crime in our communities. If you do not know who you are, I feel strongly that storytelling is a way to uncover a lot of good in our children, to give them like I mean like in my case, when I went into schools, I I have been told things in my primary school and so on, black and ugly, picky head, all those things. But I had the magic of the moonlight and the stories.
Hmm.
Nothing could
Thank
take.
you.
Yeah. So I hope you all enjoy the stories. I'm
Thank
sorry
you. Thank you.
technology failed at that point in time.
Oh, thank you. You're wonderful. We'll have to have you back. And we're sending you the biggest of hugs. And I was telling them that I feel that I can now call you Auntie N2. And I send you a COVID free virtual hug. And we say, walk good, make good dopey follow you. Thank
Yes,
you, Dr. Springer. Thank you.
God bless. And you walk good. You walk good. Take
Okay.
care. Let the ancestors bless the work that you do.
Thank you. I feel it. There you have it. Who am I
Hello.
talking to if I'm still on? Hi, everyone. Where are you? Goodbye. Thank you.